Hello, everybody. Jenn Shurkus here, and I'm so excited to be back with another video using some really fun honeybee stamps supplies. We are going to do some simple watercoloring today. I know that sometimes people are intimidated by watercoloring, but hopefully this video will show you just how easy it can be. I am going to be using the new honeybee stamps, a little note stamp set and die. There is a coordinating stencil as well. I'm not going to be using that today, but I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that. This stamp set is really great because it has everything that you need all in one stamp set. It has a main image, it has a variety of sentiments. I love the adorable banner, and it also has some additional little stamps that you could use for embellishments as well. So I am going to start by stamping the main image on some distress watercolor cardstock. And I'm actually doing this on the textured side of the distress watercolor cardstock. So I am going to need to stamp it quite a few times. One, because I'm stamping on distress watercolor cardstock and it is a bit more absorbent. And two, because it's textured, I want to make sure my stamped impression is nice and crisp. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I am embossing it with some ultrafine clear embossing powder. I love, love, love to do this when watercoloring because that embossed line is going to create little walls around our image. So when we start to watercolor, we don't need to worry as much about going out of the lines. This is a great tip if you're newer to watercoloring and you're still getting used to controlling your water usage. I also really like to do this because it just really makes the stamped impression really pop off the page. It's really nice and crisp and black. So here I am watercoloring with Distress watercolor pencils, and I am hosting an online class all about these pencils, and so I have been playing with them as much as possible over the last few months, trying different techniques, seeing how different things work, and I'm so impressed with these watercolor pencils. They are a woodless, very pigmented watercolor pencil. So there's a lot of things that you can do with them. And here I'm just doing some simple watercoloring where I am pulling the pigment off of the tip of the pencil with a wet paintbrush. This is a number 4 round paintbrush. And I'm just going in and watercoloring. So I'm kind of doing the darkest purpley flowers with the shaded lilac distress watercolor pencil. And I'm laying down that pigment here and there on some of the flowers. I'm now cleaning my brush off so I don't have as much pigment left on my brush. And I'm doing the centers of these flowers with a little bit of a lighter version of the shaded lilac. And again, coloring with these watercolor pencils is so fun and easy. And I love how with one pencil, you can get a variety of different shades. You don't need to have a whole lot of pencils. You'll see here, I have my watercolor pencils kind of in rainbow order. They're not in their original sets. But if you look at the sets, there's 3 sets that are available right now. Each set has a good variety of colors. And so no matter what set you start with, you will be able to do a lot of really fun coloring. So now I'm watercoloring the little reddish pinkish flowers. And to do that, I took some pigment off of both watercolor pencils. So I was using candied apple and picked raspberry. And I just took my wet paintbrush to both of the pencils to pick up color. And it automatically kind of mixes the color together and gives me a nice pinky warm red, which is my favorite kind of red if I am going to be coloring with red. So I'm just kind of making my way around this image, making sure I'm not missing any of the flowers that I want to be this pinky red color. And as I finish that up, I am now going to do the centers of the flowers with some mustard seed. Um, Actually, this is fossilized amber. Sorry about that. This is fossilized amber. So I'm just dabbing the centers of the flowers. And next up, we are going to do the leaves. So I'm starting with some peeled paint, and I'm just trying to kind of find all the similar style leaves. The kind of fern looking ones are going to be all peeled paint. And then the other leaves that are a bit broader in shape, I'm going to be using rustic wilderness. There are so many things that you can do with the distress watercolor pencils. This is, I think, probably the simplest thing to do is pull the color from the tip of the pencil with a wet paintbrush, and fill in your stamped image with some color. I will say it does take a little bit of practice getting a hang of how much water is on your brush. You don't want too much water, but you need enough water so that the color will move around and you'll have movement. I find using a regular paintbrush a lot easier to control the water versus a water brush that has the well where you could fill it up with water. But definitely practice with what you have and see what works best for you. Um, and you can just see where you're able to get the best results. So, as I mentioned, I do have an online class all about distress watercolor pencils. And it's a really fun class where it's all technique based. So, we don't really make any finished projects. And I do that on purpose so that we can really focus on the techniques and we're not concerned if things are perfect and are coming out the way they're supposed to. Instead, we're learning and experimenting and having some creative play. And the class is great for anybody, whether you've watercolored before, whether you've never watercolored, no matter what your style is. If you love whimsical style, kind of like this beautiful stamp set from Honeybee Stamps, or if you like a more artsy style, I really think it's a great class where it's going to guide you and help you learn a lot more about these distress watercolor pencils. So if you're interested in that class, all the details are over on my website, and you can always reach out to me or leave a comment below if you have any questions. I would love for you to join me. I'm already seeing some fabulous things that people are creating after they took the class. And the beauty of the online classes is you can take them whenever you would like and take them at your own pace as well. So you can see here, I'm still coloring in those leaves, and the last leaves that I colored in with Rustic Wilderness got a little too dark. I didn't want them quite that dark. So what I'm doing is my paintbrush has water on it. I'm not pulling any more pigment from the pencil. I'm actually pulling pigment from the existing leaves that I've already colored and transferring it to other leaves. So that helped me lighten up the leaves that I already colored that were a bit too dark for my taste, and adding that pigment onto other leaves. So we're coloring in these little hearts in the collage here. I love this image. I just think it's so sweet. And the set has a great variety of sentiments. I really think you can make a whole card set with this stamp set and maybe even give them as gifts. I think that would be a really fun idea. So now to color this big, large heart, what I did is I just gently scribbled with the picked raspberry distress watercolor pencil, and I scribbled with the Kitsch Flamingo distress watercolor pencil. And I'm activating the picked raspberry first with a wet water brush. I then cleaned my brush off and I'm activating the Kitsch Flamingo with a wet water brush. And you'll see I don't have those two colors touching just yet. I really wanted to get the whole heart blended out. and have it be a little wet so that we'll have some good movement. I'm just kind of making that kitsch flamingo a little bit bolder. And now with a clean brush, I am blending the two colors together at the seam where those two colors are going to start to join. I want to make the left side of this heart a little bit darker, a little bit more intense in the shadow and the pigment color. So I'm pulling some picked raspberry off the tip of the pencil, laying that down, and then I'm cleaning my brush off so it has just water on it. And I'm pulling some of that picked raspberry into the kitsch flamingo. You can see I'm pulling in a little bit more kitsch flamingo and really just working on blending so we have a nice seamless gradient across this heart. And I just think it's so cute. So once this is done, you'll see, oh, I'm going to add a little bit more picked raspberry, it looks like. You can build up lots of layers and continuously work on your images. So don't give up. Keep working at it. And again, practice will really help you get that nice, smooth blend. So now that that is done, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of teal. If you know me, you know I love my teal colors. And so the little dots that are around the heart, I'm just going to dab those with a little bit of Salvage Patina Distress watercolor pencils. So as I dab around these little black circles, the pigment in the pencil, again, is so intense. I love that. But it is kind of covering up the black dots. So what I'm doing is I'm purposely kind of tracing the black dots, going out of the lines a little bit, and I'm going to lay down that pigment, but then I'm going to go back with a clean brush and pull some of the pigment away, just so still be able to see the black dots. Okay, so now we're going to work on the sentiment for this card. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I just love that the stamp set comes with this really fun banner. And then there's a variety of stamp sets that, or sentiments that are going to fit in this stamp. And so I want to black emboss this as well. So I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black, stamping on the smooth side of some distress watercolor cardstock, and I'm using ultrafine clear embossing powder. Once I get the embossing powder in place on the banner, I have not embossed it yet, but I have it in place. I'm now putting the sentiment in there as well and adding the powder to that. That way I can emboss it all at once and I won't over emboss anything or risk scorching my watercolor cardstock. And so now I'm going to just add a little bit of color to this banner and pull in some more of that salvage patina that we just put on those little dots. And so I'm starting by laying down some color where the shadow of this banner is kind of going to be. And you can see I'm leaving my pencils right in the case. And with a wet paintbrush, I'm actually just pulling color from the tips of my pencils, kind of using it as a palette. You guys can hopefully see how loved my Distress Watercolor pencils are. They came out about 6 months ago, I believe, back in September of 2022. I also design for Tim Holtz and Ranger, so I did have them a little bit before then, and so I have been playing with them a lot and experimenting with them and really just kind of getting to know them. And again, I just have been enjoying it so much. I don't know if you guys have ever watercolored before or used watercolor pencils before. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what your favorite coloring medium is. I find watercoloring very relaxing. I don't know. I just like that you can constantly like kind of play with it, and you even see me doing that here. And there's so much movement in watercolors um, that there's, it's not ever really set. You can keep working it and getting it to look the way that you want. So you can see I'm laying down, again, darker color where I want the shadow, and then I'm kind of softening the edge and pulling some of that salvage patina up into the light areas. Not too much though, because I really want to make sure I have some dark areas and some light areas. As I finished up watercoloring here, I would dry this with a Ranger heat tool, and then I die cut the banner with the coordinating dies for the stamp set. I'm now grabbing a piece of gingham pattern paper from the Gingham Happy Hearts paper pad from Honeybee Stamps, and I'm trimming it down to be 4¼ by 5½. And I'm going to adhere this to a card base. That is a miracle for me. Not all of my cards make it onto card bases very often, but here we go. Proof that every once in a while one of mine does. And then I'm just using some foam tape where I am going to pop up the panel that I originally watercolored. So it has a little bit of dimension onto the card base. And then I'm also going to add some foam squares behind the banner, and that is going to get popped up off of the heart. And you'll see I try to decide the best positioning. I really think positioning this banner low on the heart, high on the heart, and in the center of the heart are all great ideas. I also could have positioned it just towards the bottom of the card as well. So, a lot of variety and different looks that you can achieve again with this one stamp set. And lastly, I'm going to grab some gem stickers, some from the Happy Hearts gem sticker pack, and got to add a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of bling. So I'm going to add 5 little gems in kind of a diagonal line. So 3 in the upper left corner and 2 in the lower right corner. And there we go. So, like I said, I think this would be a great card to mass produce and make little card sets as gifts for friends or just to send out for some happy mail. Hope you guys had fun watching this video today. I'd love it if you would give a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will be back again with another video soon. Bye, guys.